My name is Claire Bennett, and if someone had told me a year ago that my own sister would marry my husband, I would have laughed. But life, as I learned, can twist in ways you never imagine. My husband, Jonathan, was a calm, brilliant man, founder of a tech company worth nearly $400 million. We'd built everything together from the ground up. My sister Lydia, on the other hand, had always been obsessed with money. She was charming, beautiful, and manipulative, the kind of person who could turn tears on and off like a faucet. When Jonathan and I separated temporarily due to my father's illness abroad, Lydia moved in to help him. I didn't know that help meant stealing his heart, or at least pretending to. When I returned home 6 months later, she greeted me with a ring on her finger and a fake smile on her face. "Jonathan and I got married last week," she said sweetly. I remember standing there frozen, suitcase still in my hand, while my own husband avoided my eyes. The betrayal was unbearable. My sister had taken everything. My partner, my home, even the company shares she convinced him to transfer to her name, for tax purposes. I packed my things quietly and walked away with nothing but my dignity. For months, I stayed silent, rebuilding my life piece by piece. What Lydia didn't know was that Jonathan and I had a prenup, one she never bothered to read carefully, and it contained a single clause that would later destroy her plan. The clause stated that in the event of remarriage following a divorce, any spouse who entered the marriage with the intent of personal financial gain would forfeit all rights to the estate, pending review by the company's board of trustees. Jonathan had insisted on that clause years ago, joking that it's to keep the gold diggers away. Ironically, it would end up catching one. 3 months after their wedding, Jonathan reached out. "Claire, I made a mistake," he said quietly over the phone. I could hear the exhaustion in his voice. "She's not who I thought she was." He told me Lydia had begun spending wildly, throwing parties, firing long-time employees, and attempting to push her way into the company's executive meetings. When he refused, she threatened to leak private financial records to the press. Jonathan's lawyer, Mr. Crawford, called me a week later, explaining that Jonathan wanted to fix things but was seriously ill. He'd been diagnosed with a rare heart condition and had quietly started transferring his assets to a charitable foundation, one I'd helped him set up years ago. A month later, Jonathan passed away peacefully in his sleep. At the reading of the will, Lydia arrived in designer black and crocodile tears, expecting to inherit everything. The lawyer began reading the terms, and when he reached the clause about fraudulent intent, Lydia's smile faltered. Mr. Crawford looked directly at her and said, "Mrs. Bennett, due to the findings of the trustees and your own documented communications, you have been deemed ineligible to inherit." She blinked in confusion. "What findings?" she stammered. The lawyer slid a printed email across the table, one she'd sent to a friend shortly after marrying Jonathan. It read, "Once he's gone, I'll finally control everything. Claire will regret ever crossing me." Lydia's face went pale. The room went silent as Mr. Crawford continued. "All assets, including real estate, shares and accounts, have been transferred to the Bennett Foundation for Education, per Mr. Bennett's final directive." Lydia tried to protest, shouting that the will was fake, but the lawyer calmly produced the notarized documents. "Your husband signed these 3 days before his passing, witnessed by his medical team and 2 board members." The realization hit her like a storm. Everything she schemed for was gone. Jonathan had outsmarted her to the very end. As I sat there quietly, Lydia turned to me, her voice shaking with anger. "You knew, didn't you?" I looked her in the eye and said softly, "No, Lydia. But Jonathan did. He finally saw what I saw years ago." Security escorted her out when she began yelling, and I walked outside, the crisp morning air filling my lungs with relief I hadn't felt in months. Jonathan had left a private letter for me, sealed with his handwriting. It read, "You gave me love when no one believed in me. I couldn't undo what I did, but I made sure she never takes what you helped me build. The foundation is yours to guide." Today, the Bennett Foundation funds scholarships for underprivileged children, and every award bears his name. My sister disappeared from public view, her greed having cost her everything she ever wanted. Sometimes I still think about that day, the moment I lost my husband and found my purpose again. In the end, Lydia married for money and got nothing. I loved for truth and gained everything that mattered.